Life can fall apart in a moment, but sometimes love gives us the strength to rebuild. Quang's story is one of hope, struggle, and resilience. After months of unemployment, he finally finds a new job as a construction manager, while his wife Linda works tirelessly at home, harvesting crops to support them. But on his very first day at work, an unexpected accident threatens to shatter everything again. Will Quang rise above the pain and continue his journey? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow for more heartfelt stories of love, courage, and second chances. The first light of morning filtered gently through the thin curtains, brushing across the modest little house that Quang and Linda called home. Today was not an ordinary day. It marked a new beginning. Quang stood before the cracked mirror, adjusting his old but neatly pressed shirt and the navy blue tie Linda had mended the night before. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the weight of hope. After months of struggling with unemployment, rejection letters, and sleepless nights filled with worry, he was finally going to his first day at a new job, a construction site manager at a reputable housing company. For the first time in a long while, he felt that perhaps life was beginning to turn its page. Outside, the air carried the faint scent of ripe fruit and damp earth. Linda was already in the yard, tying up sacks of rice she had harvested from the fields behind their home. Her fingers were rough, sun-kissed, and slightly calloused, but her movements were tender and full of purpose. She looked up as Quang stepped out of the doorway, his figure outlined by the morning sun. Their eyes met for a brief, silent moment that said more than words could: pride, love, and an unspoken promise that they would keep walking this road together, no matter how hard it became. "Don't forget your lunch," she called, handing him a small metal lunchbox wrapped in a faded cloth. He smiled, taking it as though it were the most precious gift in the world. "I won't. Thank you, Linda," he said softly. The corners of her lips lifted, though her heart tugged with both joy and worry. She knew how much this job meant to him, how many days he had stared at the horizon, wondering if he was still worth something, if his dreams had quietly died with the years of hardship. As Quang walked down the dusty road leading to the bus stop, Linda stayed standing there for a while, watching until his figure became a small dot in the distance. The morning breeze lifted her hair, carrying with it the echoes of their shared struggles, the long months of selling fruit at the local market, of patching clothes, of saving every coin to keep their little home standing. Now, it all seemed to make sense. Every sacrifice, every tear shed in silence had brought them to this very morning, a fragile but beautiful moment of renewal. When she finally turned back to her baskets of fruit and rice, a quiet smile spread across her face. She whispered to herself, "He's finally found his way again." The sun climbed higher, golden light spilling across the fields, and for the first time in months, Linda felt truly at peace. Though their path ahead was uncertain, one thing was clear: love and perseverance had carried them through the darkest days, and that same love would light the way forward. When Quang arrived at the construction site, the world around him buzzed with the sound of hammers, machinery, and voices shouting directions across the open ground. The air was thick with the scent of wet cement and dust, but to him, it smelled like a fresh start, like freedom after months of suffocating uncertainty. The company's main engineer, a man with a weathered face and kind eyes, greeted him with a firm handshake. "Welcome aboard, Quang. We've heard good things about you," he said warmly. Quang smiled modestly, though deep inside, his heart swelled with gratitude. He had dreamed of hearing those words again, of belonging somewhere, of being useful, of working for something that mattered. He put on his safety helmet, rolled up his sleeves, and began walking the perimeter of the project. Rows of unfinished houses stood before him, like silent witnesses to the lives that would one day fill them with laughter and dreams. Quang ran his fingers along the rough concrete wall, imagining the families who would move in, the children who would take their first steps on these floors. For the first time in what felt like forever, he was building something real again. Not just homes, but a future for himself and for Linda. The sun climbed steadily overhead, spilling light across his back as he bent over blueprints and exchanged instructions with workers. Sweat soaked through his shirt, but he didn't mind. Every drop felt like redemption. The workers respected him quickly. His calm voice, his careful eye for detail, the way he always said thank you after giving directions. Many of them didn't know that just a month ago, this man had been jobless, unsure if he could even afford to keep the lights on at home. But Quang knew, and that memory fueled every step he took. As noon approached, he sat on a stack of bricks, unwrapping the lunchbox Linda had packed. Inside were simple things: rice, stir-fried vegetables, and a few slices of mango from their orchard. He smiled faintly, picturing Linda's hands preparing it before dawn, her quiet pear folded into every bite. The taste of home filled his heart with strength. He thought of her in the fields now, probably wiping sweat from her brow under the same sunlight that scorched his own shoulders, and he made a silent vow that one day she wouldn't have to work so hard anymore, that he would give her the comfort she deserved. When he stood again, a soft wind swept across the site, carrying the scent of grass from the nearby hills. Quang closed his eyes for a moment, letting it brush against his face like a whisper of hope. He knew this was only the beginning of challenges, of hard days ahead, but also of something greater, the quiet, stubborn rebirth of a man who refused to give up. And somewhere miles away, Linda's faith in him glowed like a light he could feel even here, under the wide, unyielding sky. The afternoon sun burned fiercely over the construction site, turning the air heavy and bright. Quang wiped the sweat from his forehead, eyes scanning a pile of materials that had been delivered earlier that morning. He wanted everything to be perfect, to make a good impression on his first day. The workers were tired, but Quang's calm voice and easy smile kept the energy steady. "Let's finish this section before the rain comes," he said, though the sky above was still a cloudless blue. He bent down to check the alignment of a foundation beam, unaware that a few bricks had been left loose nearby, carelessly stacked, just enough to turn one step into a trap. It happened in an instant. A slip, a sharp crack, and then a jolt of pain shot through his leg. Quang fell hard, his helmet rolling across the concrete with a hollow clang. For a few seconds, the world blurred, dusts rising in slow motion, voices echoing around him. Someone shouted his name. Strong hands reached down to lift him, but when he tried to stand, his ankles screamed in protest. The pain was searing, but what cut deeper was the wave of frustration that followed. "Not today," he thought desperately. "Not when I've just started over." They helped him to a bench in the shade. The site manager called for first aid, and a young worker wrapped a cold cloth around his ankle. Quang forced a smile, thanking them, trying to downplay his own injury. "It's nothing serious," he said, though every heartbeat seemed to pulse through his foot. He stared at the ground, jaw tight, fighting the fear creeping up his chest. What if this small accident ruined his chance? What if all the effort, all of Linda's sacrifices had been for nothing? His phone buzzed softly in his pocket. It was Linda. He hesitated before answering, not wanting to worry her, but the moment he heard her voice, gentle, full of warmth, his defenses crumbled. "How's your first day, Quang?" she asked, her tone light but hopeful. For a moment, he couldn't speak. Then he forced a laugh, rough and uneven. It's going well. I just tripped over some bricks, that's all. A little clumsy, huh? Linda's voice trembled slightly. You're not hurt, are you? He could almost see her face now, brows furrowed, hands probably still dusty from the field. No, love, he said quietly. I'll be fine. After hanging up, Quang leaned back, watching the sunlight flicker across the half-built walls. The pain in his leg dulled, replaced by something stronger, a stubborn flame of determination. He wouldn't let this small fall define him. Tomorrow, he would come back, walk the same ground again, and keep building. Because for every bruise and setback, there was Linda waiting at home, believing in him. And that belief, pure and unwavering, was worth more than any job, any paycheck. It was the foundation he was truly rebuilding his life upon.
Hello, xin chào tất cả các khán giả của kênh Lý Tử Linda Review. Vậy là trong tập phim này của chúng ta ngày hôm nay thì Quang đã không còn thất nghiệp. Anh đã chính thức đến công ty mới để nhận vị trí quản lý công trình. Và bên cạnh đó Linda cũng đã thu hoạch nông sản của trang trại mình và tích góp những đồng tiền đưa cho Quang để anh có thể vượt qua giai đoạn khó khăn này, gây dựng lại sự nghiệp. Và một điều không may đó chính là trong lúc ra công trường, Quang đã vấp phải gạch và ngã gãy chân. Liệu rằng sự cố này có ảnh hưởng đến sức khỏe của Quang và công việc của Quang hay không? Tình tiết hấp dẫn sẽ còn được kể ở video tiếp theo. Các bạn hãy bấm vào nút subscribe để đăng ký kênh, sẽ nhận được thông báo mới nhất về các tập phim sẽ được phát sóng hàng ngày trên kênh Lý Tử Linda Review nha. Cảm ơn các bạn rất nhiều. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại.